What's going on, you guys? It's Cody Steck. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Today we're with Mr. McCrae here and JD, my partner down here in St. George, and we're super excited to just bring together this kind of like super casual impromptu podcast slash video type setup where we're just basically going to just chat about what's happened in St. George, what's going on with development, what's happening with the water supply, what's happening with housing, as well as just anything else that might come up. So I'm super excited to do this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
We've been doing so much business and we haven't even met.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, that we've been in that situation. It's been over a year now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy that that's the world we live in now, where you can just never even see somebody in person.
Right.
Yeah.
So much transaction.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, even the owner of our company is in halfway around the world.
I know.
Which is insane. That's crazy, you know, it runs the business, so it is what it is. But yeah, why don't we just jump in, and I want to get your guys' take, because I've done a little bit of research on this and have been thinking a lot about it, but honestly haven't said anything like on the channel about like my personal thoughts about it and stuff. But let's chat water. You know, a lot of people are concerned about the water here, or lack thereof, when it comes to housing, when it comes to golf courses, when it comes to replenishing the water, etc. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? Where are we going?
Take the lead.
So, I mean, and I'm no water expert, but it is a conversation that I've been engaged in, and because it's important and it's one of the most misunderstood thing. There's still a lot of things about water that I don't understand, but the more that I learn, the more that I realize how complex of a system it is, especially here in Washington County. It's a very complex water system that's really one main source that's like countywide, and it's just really complex, and that's why I think the conversation is so controversial, because everybody has an opinion, and most of them are opinions. They're not based on facts. And which is a problem in really many conversations today.
Yeah.
But it's also political, you know, because, you know, we've been talking about a Lake Powell pipeline for years that's also connected to about 5 or 6 other states that all want a piece of that. And so really it's controversial, and that's why I love talking about it. And I actually have an interview with Zach Renstrom next week, who's the head guy at the Water District, just to stay up to date on what they're doing, right? Because there is, despite what people say on Facebook or anywhere, there are a lot of people working on that problem daily. And we're not in my opinion, not in as bad of a position as a lot of people think.
Right.
And that we have resources. It's just a matter of being smart, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, you live in the desert, right?
Right.
So the cause for concern is water, but we're seeing things even right now, just even on the building side, already changed. Like, there's subdivision going in where you can't do grass in the front yards.
Yeah.
Like, you only can do xeriscape. In fact, I just put a home under contract. They don't have any grass. It's xeriscaped and then just fake grass. You know, that's kind of
seen a lot of turf.
You know, I think there's a lot of misconception too about how like grass water and golf water and everything like here for the golf courses are being taken care of. A lot of the water that they use is water that we actually couldn't use in the first place.
Yeah, it's polluted. I mean, you're not going to be drinking it. It's not filtered water.
It's kind of an interesting topic. McCrae, I think you hit it on the head. There's a lot of people that are working on that problem actively that are way smarter than everybody in this room.
Yeah.
You know, that is their life goal, is to figure out a water solution.
Yeah.
And they know exactly what they should be doing, and I think it's up to us to kind of put our trust in them, but with, you know, a little bit of questions in there.
Yeah, for sure. And the big thing, I mean, Washington County has some of the cheapest water in the country, and I think that leads to maybe some usage problems. I think there's been a lot of conservation talk recently, and there have been new ordinances like you can't have more than like 8% grass on a new build, stuff like that. And I think that it's just more and more of that. I think we also have to take into consideration a lot of what they're doing. There's 3 reservoirs in the works right now, countywide. We don't have a lot of places that hold water. Yeah. So one of the big problems is that the Virgin River, which is our main channel, a lot of the water just it flows right down to Meade and further south, and it's because we don't have a place to store it, and we can't reuse it. And so there's no way to capture it, and so they're building these reservoirs. They're doing things that will make it so we have more reusable water, and that's the type of water that we see on the golf courses and that we see, because all water is not equal, and there's different types of water too. There's primary, there's secondary, and really I just challenge people to really research it before getting on Facebook or somewhere. And
that's the problem too, is like we're not going to be able to, convince other people, one way or the other. At the end of the day, they're going to be the ones to really decide kind of what their thoughts are.
Yeah, you really have to do your research. I saw a statistic that said, this was more statewide for Utah, so maybe not specifically Washington County, but 85% of the water being used in the state was from agricultural. So only 15%, actually it's probably less than 15 because there was like a couple like percentage points that went just random places, but it was like, it must have been around 12 or 13% that I saw, if I remember correctly, that was actually used in housing measures, right? Which would be your lawn, your, taking a shower, drinking, whatever, right? So
talk about that. We've been building lots of homes on where there's large agricultural farms, especially in like Washington Fields and Little Valley. Farms that were there when I grew up,
are no longer there. Yeah, they're selling them off.
They're definitely, you drive by at some of those farms and they would just be soaked in water, just sitting.
In the middle of summer.
Right.
And I think and this is where it kind of gets a little political, but most of that is alfalfa, which we ship out to China.
Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of it goes out of the country.
Right. And so really it's like, okay, let's take a look at that as well, right? So
it kind of sucks because I've thought about that too. Like, okay, a lot of it is being used towards agriculture. So if you want to make the biggest dent in the problem, you got to figure something out with that. And that sucks, because if you're a landowner and you've been growing alfalfa for the last 100 years in your family, like, that sucks. But like, at least you got some land that's worth some money, for houses or something.
Humans need a place to lay their head, right? They need water and food, and everything we're talking about is like, it's all correlation, right? Because if we get rid of too many farms, then we don't have enough food, and if we get rid of the food and the farms, then there's too much water, and vice versa. And put houses on it, then there's not enough land, and so it's like, it's a kind of a big problem. I think it's bigger than us for sure, but I do know that the leadership in St. George, I trust them. I think there's a lot of really competent people down here. And they're planning for the growth. What fastest growing metro in the nation, like 4 years running or something like that.
And we've been in that range for a time now. Yes, the last couple of years has been even more, but really since 1980, it's been a pretty much straight, not like straight up, but we've developed a lot over the last 40 years, and they plan 2 and 3 decades ahead. So yes, we are. Yes, it's there. If we don't, they have the Lake Powell pipeline. If that doesn't happen, and there's not other resources to pull from, yes, it will get interesting in the next decade, but I do think that they have measures in place to continue that.
And I guess that kind of leads into the next topic of like where the development's happening, where it's going. One thing that I've noticed recently just from driving around town is like traffic is like, no matter what part of town you're in, it's like there's just cars everywhere, and it's like, whoa, this is crazy. It didn't look like this even 5 years ago.
I can speak to that. What they're planning right now, at least from my perspective, is they're building a lot of things that will pull you away from these traffic areas.
I was just gonna say that.
So like the northern corridor of St. George is going to get all new auto mall and a lot of new commercial. We have Desert Color, the south corridor of St. George, and that's going to help kind of alleviate that. They're bringing like other big box stores into town, and there's like word of a second Costco maybe, which would be amazing.
Wow.
That'd be kind of cool, right? and their plan is to try to alleviate some of that immediate stress on the roads by giving you other things to do rather than just be right in the center of St. George.
Yeah.
But it's very much, I mean, we're turning into a city.
Yeah.
I mean, as much
Yeah,
as
A lot of
as much
growing
as-
up pains for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
as much as locals, and locals do shout to the rooftops that, you know, they want to keep it small.
Yeah.
There's a large group of people that want to grow St. George, and we are turning into a metro area that's,
Yeah.
every downtown area is congested. It's just
Yeah,
really what it is.
and the biggest thing is that it's not about like more roads. It's about placing. You know, we have all of Little Valley, all of Washington Fields, and even a lot of just like Washington City. That where do they have to go for all of their food and grocery and their needs? I'm out there. We all have to go into River Road. We have to go into near Costco. So the problem is, and that's not saying that, you know, I mean, you can only plan, and planning is not always going to be perfect, right?
Right.
But the fact that there's that much of a population, that's the most, I'm just using this as an example, the fields in Little Valley that has grown more than just about anywhere else in the county.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere out there, there's not a grocery development, you know, right there. Everybody has to come in. So that's where you get the congested River Road, you get the congested exit 10. And so, to speak to his point, that's where I would have gone. Is I know the city planners and developers that are creating other spots so that it's not just everybody
Everybody going to one
everybody
spot.
going to one spot.
Same with like parks and things
Yeah.
like that. Washington
Right.
City just announced like an amazing new park in the Washington area, the Washington Fields area. I think they're putting like $9 or $10 million into a brand new skate park and a public
Yeah.
splash pad and all these things. And there's a commercial area that'll be trailed down to connect to it. And they're doing things like that that'll help alleviate some of that stress. But also they need it, right? They need it
Yeah.
to be able to grow as a city. It's the thing is, the city and St. George and people within the industry in the last 3 or 4 years have made a lot of money with all the traffic that's come to St. George.
Yeah.
Now it's time to spend it to kind of help the
Yeah.
public grow and the city grow.
And our thing too that you always see is like you have to have the houses and the people first, because businesses don't want to go to a brand new area
Right.
where there's no people. You know, like I was even up in Hurricane earlier today, and like just seeing like what's happened. I haven't been there in years, but you know, seeing what's happening there, it's like, oh, like they're getting a Jimmy John's, like they're getting all these
Yeah.
like different types of
We got our
businesses
second
because
Chick-fil-A. Let's go.
yeah, like they're getting big enough to now have those businesses, and so like that's always the balance of like, you know, you can't just go throw a Costco out in the middle of nowhere, and
Right.
even
And
if there's 1,000 people there, like it's just not quite big enough of a population. So
And that's
Makes it
one
hard.
one big thing that people are, because I get asked all the time about, you know, your Costco's, your Trader Joe's, we're like in that middle, we're in that like middle range where we're big enough to where we all feel like we need all these things, but then we're just not big enough to where those guys are like, yep, it makes sense, because they do those big stores and those big players, they don't care how much we yell at them like, hey,
Yeah.
your store will be full all the time
Yeah.
if you come. They base it off of rooftops. They base it off of population and traffic.
Yeah.
And so that's where, like exit 13, for example, there's been more apartments and homes built in that area over the last 3 or 4 years. It's ready for that big retail development,
Yeah.
which will hopefully pull that traffic from exit 10 along with exit 11. That's also controversial, but they're just these growing pains, right?
Yeah.
That we are growing up, and it's there's pains along the way.
We're the biggest small town ever.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Because you can still drive at like 9 and 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes there's nobody on the roads.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
where it's like,
Yeah.
where'd they all go?
it's like, where's everybody? Yeah.
Realistically, I can still get from my house in Little Valley out to Ivans in like
Half hour?
25 minutes.
Yeah.
25,
That's-
yeah.
And there's still, and that's where, like, when people, you know, rant and rave about traffic, I've lived in Huntington Beach and I've been other places, and I'm like, we're still pretty blessed here.
Yeah. Well, and
I don't
it's-
ever sit through what a stoplight.
Anaheim to Los Angeles it should technically be like a 20-minute drive, but it's like an hour and 45 minutes
Right.
because it's just traffic.
Yeah, it's just
Stopping
traffic.
the
You're
whole
not even
time.
moving. Yeah,
So, and we
and
don't
that's
have
a,
that here. I mean, every so often you get stuck.
yeah.
But
But it seems like the roads are set up pretty well here, where it's pretty rare. I mean, you got I-15 obviously, which runs right down the middle, so that's always a good road if you're going north and south. But then even if you're trying to like, you know, go in a circle, right? You can take like Southern Parkway if you're out by Desert Color, for instance, and you can loop that up all the way around to
some
Washington.
of these east-west corridors, and one that's in the, like you mentioned, the Southern Corridor, which now is fully built all the way into the southern fields of Hurricane, which is huge. You have the Red Hills Parkway that goes east and west there. You have the Northern Corridor that will tie in from exit 13 all the way up. That one's supposed to start, I think, in 2025. And the more that we have these types of, because Red Hills Parkway took pressure off of here, and now that's getting pretty, I mean, that's a pretty busy road, so then you have to take it another step. Another one that is talking about the park you're talking about, another east-west that I think is going to be huge for River Road. River Road's really the main bottleneck. That's where, if I'm stuck in traffic, I'm on River Road. So if you know where the Popeyes is and down by the summit, that road is gonna go west through the fields and over Virgin River over to exit 5. And then it's gonna run all the way out past Staley Farm, out onto the Southern Parkway. That belt loop right there, I think is gonna take a lot of pressure off of your 700 South and River Road. Because right now you have to go up and then back around. Whereas if we just keep creating these kind of, not belt loop, I don't know if that's the word, but more east-west alternate routes, it'll just continue to, and it's not perfect. Like
and
3000 East, you know, is also crazy busy, but
you know, the traffic it's really not that bad. You avoid River Road at 5 o'clock. You avoid Bluff Street at 5 o'clock. Mornings aren't too bad. It's like 4 or 5 o'clock. You gotta avoid those two streets, and so it's like.
And even Bluff Street, I grew up on Bluff Street, off of Bluff Street, and now with the 3 lanes on each side, it's not even amazing. I wish there was a way
down Sunset now than you.
Sunset's one that does get kind of a bottleneck sometimes.
But it's not as bad as like Salt Lake City. Or
not even.
I would take this all day long.
Not even close.
So
not even close.
I mean, it's nice to see the growth though, and it's cool to see all the little places pop up on those roads that are just like, oh shoot, we're getting that now, sick.
It's cool
Instead of St. George is famous for swigs and soda places. Mexican restaurants, those are super popular right now, and car washes.
Car washes.
I need a little less of that, but I think they've pretty much put the clamps on some of that.
Locking it down.
I mean, there's a car wash probably within every 2 miles of each other right now. So it's like, which one do you want to go to?
It's crazy. Let's see. Let's talk about housing, like prices. Where do you guys think market's going? I mean, obviously this year is going to be volatile. The last couple of years have been crazy. But like, let's say like short term and long term.
I actually just typed up an email and fired this out. Let me just pull this up really quick. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I have some stats that I thought were pretty interesting that I fired out, and I just need to find it really quick.
I just want to get an idea of like from your guys' perspective. I mean, I have my own opinion, but from like a short term and then a long term thing, where you see the demand being, going, and then where prices are going to reflect from that. Because I get a lot of people who reach out here on the channel, which, by the way, if you're thinking about making a move here, reach out to us. We'd love to help. But we get a lot of people who reach out and say, hey, I thought St. George was like kind of a small town. Like, why is like a nice house $800,000? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that's as expensive as it would be in California or in, a nice home in Florida or something, right? But that's just kind of the reality of it here. And it always comes down to supply and demand, right? How much does it cost to build the home? How many people want to buy that home? And how much are they willing to pay?
Cost of land.
The cost of land,
We're seeing it come down. I think last year, from the start of the year to the end of the year, it fell just under 17% for all of southern Utah.
Which is a huge drop.
I have some comparisons. I put this all together. I just put the numbers in, and then I used an AI
Chat GPT.
Nice.
To like formulate the email, and I threw out an
And
email.
I'm sure it's perfect.
It is perfect. So the key points from November to December, it populated them. So active listings were from 1697 in November to 1562 in December. They actually fell 7.7%. New listings fell from 449 to 272 in December. That's a 40% reduction of new listings that hit the market in December. Obviously, our December market like slowed down. People
Yeah.
were like, maybe we won't list in December. Holidays, right?
Holidays,
Yeah.
yep.
The sold listings in December went from 320 to 272, 15%. The days on market rose. This is where it's kind of getting crazy for what we're seeing here. So,
Yeah.
and from November to December, the days on market rose 20 days from 43 to 63 days, which is almost a 50% increase.
Yeah.
The thing that pairs with though that people aren't understanding is even though our median price is so high right now, which it still is, the median price in as of December was $595. We're selling homes 6.5% below that is what the homes are selling for right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So even though the median price is still high, we're seeing homes actually selling
For quite a bit less than what
under
they're
it,
listed.
right?
Listed at, yeah.
So our market's definitely slowed, but what's happening now is it was such a rampant slow until October that November and December and even this month so far, everything's just kind of held. We're not seeing as much movement in price point anymore, but
Yeah.
we're still seeing buyers getting really good deals below market value.
Yeah.
That gives you guys some insight, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I'm seeing the same thing statewide. You know, even up north, it's kind of the same thing. Prices have leveled off. I was looking at Salt Lake data the other day, and since September, the median price has only come down $12,000, which isn't that much.
Yeah.
It was only about 2.5% in the last 4 months. You know, everybody's freaking out, thinking, "Oh, prices are going to come down," and they really haven't. You know, and so. They have, but just not as much as I think a lot of people think. They think as much as they should have or will, right? And I think that honestly, it just kind of everything like coming together. There's still a lot of demand in the market. I saw the interest rates dropped a good chunk this morning. We'll see how they hold up through the rest of the week, but there's still so much demand in the market. There's so many people waiting on the sidelines, waiting to jump in.
Right.
And my personal belief, even though it's not everybody, there's still a lot of people on the sidelines who have money, who make a lot of money, they have good jobs, and they work remote, and they're
Yeah.
willing to live in a place like St. George and still buy those $800,000 homes, those $1.5 million homes.
Yeah.
Cash is king right now.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, any cash person.
There's a lot of
that
cash out
working,
there.
It is. And St. George is a market that gets a ton of out of town buyers. I mean, this is like vacation central for a lot of people. So we're seeing our cash buyers just get incredibly good deals that, is a hedge against the market changing.
Yeah.
Like, the prices are already from last year 17% lower, but then a lot of them are getting that additional 6 and 7% even below that on their cash.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're buying homes at, if we want to get technical, if there was a 26% gain from May to May, right? So they're buying homes at like pre-crazy 2021 prices at this point. And for me, I feel like if I was a cash buyer, I mean, that's a great hedge against worrying if I was going to lose value in my house.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm planning on holding that home for long term.
Yeah.
I think gone are the days that you can buy like a new construction or something and then immediately flip it in 6 months.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we'll see that, but that was happening like crazy where builders were even putting things in their contract like, hey, you can't flip our properties because you're raising our prices too quick.
Right.
But I think those days are gone. And I think what we're going to see now are people who are planning to buy their properties, investors who are planning to buy their properties and planning for no less than 3 years on hold, if not longer.
Yeah.
Which is just a different conversation at that point. You can't, I mean, you'll probably find flips in St. George now that you can still get here and there, but it may make more sense rather than flipping the property to turning it into a rental now.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to make a quick profit on it.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
Especially if you already own it with a low interest rate or something.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a different concept now.
Yeah.
The quick equity, I think, is here to slow down, which I think is what the feds really wanted. They wanted to kind of slow the housing market down a bit and slow the economy down a bit, just because it was chaos for the last 3 years.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know about you, but I can actually breathe a little bit now. I was like, I'll hit the market. I'm like, okay, I'll be there in 30 seconds and I'll have an offer typed up as I'm driving there.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't have to do that anymore. I can actually be like, I'll schedule it at the end of the week. We'll go see it.
Yeah. It's crazy to see how much, just how much things have changed and what's happening with just prices, with how much they've gone up over the last couple of years and then come back down, and then where they're going to go, 5 or 10 years down the road. It's hard to say, but I personally am extremely optimistic and bullish on just the Utah market in general, whether it's northern Utah, southern Utah. People want to live here. They're going to continue moving here, whether you're local and you'd like that or not. It's kind of just reality. And so,
St. George has been its own little ecosphere for a while, even like post-recession. They recovered pretty dang quick. And it seems like it always has been kind of protected. It's a very safe space to invest in because it's always has had so much demand over all the years. Like McRae said earlier, it's just been an upward incline.
Yeah, man, there's really not that much available land. That's one thing about Utah. 66% of the land is public, or is private land.
Privately owned.
Privately owned. We have a large chunk. I actually learned this last year from Adam Snow, County Commissioner, about the public land states, and he kind of gave me a brief history and why there's 2% public land in Texas. There's 34% public land in Utah. And that because I was asking him, I'm like, why is our land so I'm trying to understand why. My friends in Texas have lots for this price and our lots here are this price, right? And anyway, part of it is just that our availability for land is shrinking by the day, and that's also part of it, right? Which also alludes to the rising costs and all that, and it's going to be interesting to see because the thing about there's no desperation, I feel like, in the market, which is why I don't think prices. And I hopefully we don't get to that point, right? But prices have come down, volume is less. A lot of people either bought or refied in the last 3 or 4 years, and if you owned a home and you didn't, I'm not sure what rock you were under.
Yeah.
So then I think a lot of people are just more like, okay, maybe I'll stay a little bit longer. But then we're still. That's the nice thing about Utah is it's so everyone wants to be here. Business friendly, business opportunities, family life, outdoors. We check all the boxes. I tell this all the time. We check all the boxes. Especially here in southern Utah, and I'm a little biased, obviously, but
I'm super biased.
But we check every single box for the post-COVID life, the quality of life that a lot of people really want. Outdoors, opportunities, and as we continue to grow up, we're just going to get more and more of those opportunities. And I'm really, even though it has, the volume is down, I think it's just like you said, back to reality of something that was a crazy 2 years. And so if you were smart during those times and you can weather through some of these slower months, sky's the limit still here. I mean, the projections are still by 2050 that we're over double the population here. Right.
So just change your mindset to that longer term. Longer term. Instead of more of a shorter gain, you're going to have a longer term, but you're going to gain a lot in just lifestyle.
And I think that works to a lot of people's favor because if you are buying a second home here or a vacation home, or even just a retirement home, you're probably going to be there for a long time, right? You're going to own the home for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years in most cases, right? You're not just trying to get in and live there for 2 years and then upgrade to a bigger home for your growing family, right? It's a little bit of a different mindset. Now, obviously not everybody's in that boat, but from the channel, I've actually noticed that a large portion of the people who watch the channel, almost half, are 55 or older. And so that is kind of that like retirement, vacation home, generally more established, you can afford the home, and there's demand for it.
And that's the big thing is we still have the big retirement community here, although we are growing younger. As more, it's funny, I was talking to somebody the other day because somebody had moved here to help his sister take care of the mom. It used to be that people would retire here And then once they kind of got to that point, they would sell their house and move with their kids, right?
Right.
Now, everybody wants to move here.
Yeah,
And
the kids are coming here. They're like,
and
I don't
now
want to
people are retiring here. Their kids come and they're like, oh wait, this is like the coolest place on earth.
Yeah.
And there's opportunities and like that's state. So then it's
Yeah.
like rather than okay, when mom and dad have to move in or you have to make that transition, rather than go back, it's like let's do everything we can to stay here, right? And so that's what
a conversation on the daily
happens all the time.
Yeah.
Or even sometimes it'll happen in the reverse where they'll be like, their kids will move here.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we want our parents here too. You know,
Yeah.
so I got a call like 2 weeks after they close. They're like, hey, our parents are thinking about coming in now.
Yeah.
We love it here. You know,
Yeah, we love it here.
Happens a ton.
All the time.
I would say like at least 30% of our transactions are like repeat family business.
Yeah, I'd say the people who reach out, they're always like, hey, I'm moving there, and then I'm going to bring my mom, or I'm going to bring my sister, or,
Yeah.
you know, my kids want to move in, you know, later.
And
They're
the,
move a
the
year
cool
down the
thing
road.
too is St. George doesn't, I don't think they invest much money in like bringing people to St. George. You've never seen a like St. George advertisement in like other states. Like
Yeah, well, you don't really have to.
much like
because of
that.
the-
It just kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And it's almost immediately recognizable too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we'll take, you know, people on house showings and we'll give them a tour of the city. And by the end of the day, they're just like, yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really like it
It's
here.
very rare that people don't like it.
I know. It's I
Incredibly
have
rare.
I don't know if it's the loop I take or something.
You slip something in your drink.
I don't know what's going on, but they're like, yeah, we're in. Like,
Yeah.
And I have people shop too. And I feel like a common one is they go look at like Arizona. They'll take a trip down to Texas.
Yeah.
They'll look at Utah.
Yeah,
and,
look
like,
at Phoenix, look at, yeah,
maybe even go up into
Vegas.
northern Utah. And like St. George is always what they settle on.
Yeah.
And it's just because of, I think, the location. I mean, it's nice.
Yeah.
Everybody gets big.
So let's talk a little bit about, just real quick, where do you guys see, I want your perspective on each of your perspectives, where do you guys see the most demand being, let's say, 15 years down the road? Where are people going to pay the most to live? Is it going to be downtown? Is it going to be Washington? Is it going to be Ivans? Like Desert Color? Where's it going to be?
It's a great question.
Where's the place that people are going to want to be, where we'll see the biggest increase in price and demand?
So I want to preface that question. It's really going to determine how the city transforms downtown, because they're in the process of making a lot of changes downtown, and I think we could have a really cool. It's already pretty cool downtown St. George's, but it could be, you know, in 10 to 15 years, a really cool place to be. So in 10 to 15, I would imagine downtown's probably going to be
The place
Like
to
the
be.
biggest change.
Yeah.
Or the biggest. I could see that.
I could see it being like pretty cool with the plans that they have here. I could see it being really, really expensive in 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Shorter term, I would say
What's the hot area?
the hot area short term is probably Little Valley still.
Yeah.
Washington Fields with all the new commercial and everything going in. Would you say that?
Yeah, I mean that strip, that area out around into desert. That like if we're talking St. George proper, that's where there's the most available land still. St. George proper, Washington Fields. Obviously, the Fields in Little Valley have been the place, right? It's the new high school. It's the new, right?
It's a bougie high school.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I was like, if I went there, I would have been stoked. It's a really nice high
Yeah, I would have
school.
been super happy.
And
right?
so it's hard to say anything. I mean, that area, Desert Color, the whole southern corridor, I think will continue to be a hot spot. Ivans and Santa Clara, I think it's more and more coveted by the day.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I grew up. It's crazy. I grew up on the off of Valley View and Sunset right here, and our house was out looking Santa Clara and Ivans. And I remember growing up, it was like if you met someone from Ivans, it was like, oh, you live clear out there. Like that's crazy. And now,
And it was like you live in Ivans,
and like
it wasn't very nice growing up here, but now it's like
Right.
so nice.
yeah, and you got with Black Desert going out there and with all the beauty out there. I mean, when I drive out Snow Canyon Parkway or down Highway 91, and you just look around,
Yeah.
It's like, what was I thinking growing up? This is like the coolest place,
Yeah.
right? So I think out there will continue to flourish. I think one underrated spot, or maybe not underrated, but maybe not talked about
Yeah, that was
enough,
my next question.
is the Apple Valley Hilldale corridor.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is some of the prettiest country in the entire county. It's always had the stigma of, Hilldale, Colorado City.
Yeah.
The transformation, I was just out there, the transformation that city's going through, since they've privatized the land and people are really trying to take back the land from, everything that's happened out there. That along with Apple Valley, I could see major growth out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how far, for reference for people watching, how far is that from downtown?
So from my office here on St. George Boulevard to Hilldale was 45 minutes.
Yeah. So it's not very far.
Yeah. You just drive through Hurricane.
Drive
Yeah.
through Hurricane and up, and they're doing so if for reference, when you're going out to Apple Valley Hilldale, you go further and about another hour, you're hour and a half, you're at Lake Powell.
Yeah.
And then north you're into Kanab. That strip right there,
Yeah.
from Apple Valley and Hilldale to Fredonia, Centennial Park, Fredonia, which is at Arizona, into Kanab, is some of the most pretty landscape you'll see.
Yeah.
And I think that little strip right there is going to continue because Kanab is booming as well. I mean, Kanab is crazy. That's out of our Washington County. It's Kane County, so it's a different county.
They're our neighbors.
They're our neighbors, and that little strip right there, I think, has a lot of potential.
Yeah. What do you think is underrated? What?
Definitely
what city?
Kanab, but that's outside of.
You think that's underrated still, even with all that?
Yeah, it's growing a
growth?
lot, but I think I talk to so many clients that they go to Kanab and then they end up buying in St. George. So Kanab definitely is one of those spots that I think
it's maybe just a little too small, a little too remote
Still
for
takes
people where they're like, I really do want an airport. I really do want a Costco. I really do, I don't know. Those different things,
as
right?
far as other areas, man, underrated areas.
What about here in the metro area?
That's a good question. So there's these little communities. I'm gonna shout out my neighborhood. so I think my neighborhood is a little golden.
No bias on this.
Little golden
suggestion.
nugget. So off the southern corridor, not desert color, there's little subdivisions popping up off that corridor that are just some of the close knit, really tight knit communities that they're actually pretty dang affordable. They have a lot of mixed housing. There's commercial being built around them too, and there's these little off sections where you can, if you don't want to live in an HOA community like Desert Color, then you can go to those communities with no HOA, larger lots. I mean, I think they're little golden nuggets that I think people pass up sometimes, or they don't even know they exist out there. And it's 15 minutes into town, but I think they're great. Yeah. That's where I live. So
that's the thing I love about just St. George in general is you get all these different areas where you can find something that's still quiet, where you can't hear anything, right? Earlier today, I was just out at, after I left Hurricane, I came down past Sand Hollow. I was just driving through Sand Hollow Resort, and it's wow, you can't hear anything, but you're maybe 10 minutes from town, 15, I guess, maybe from Washington.
That's cool.
And then you got the ledges, which is 10, 15 minutes up the road, and it's you're kind of just out there by yourself, and it's quiet, and it's you get these little pockets where you can have that resort lifestyle, but then you're still 10 minutes into town.
Right. Yeah, and I even feel that in Little Valley, the quietness.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel that.
Yeah,
for sure. That's what's really cool.
Pretty much every neighborhood you live in, you can see the night sky.
Yeah.
Which I know there's some areas in northern Utah you can't. No. And so for us, it's it's nice, it's peaceful, it's quiet.
Yeah.
That's why I like it for sure. I like having the community vibe.
What are you guys' thoughts on the airport? Because obviously it's growing. There's a lot of flights coming in, lots of flights going out. More. It seems like each year they just keep adding to it and keep more and more people coming in and going out.
Yeah.
What do you guys think will happen with that?
Well, I know they're expanding the terminal. They're I don't know the time frame, but I do know that is in the works. Mm-hmm. It will be able to house more because every time I go in there now it's jam packed, and we're hopeful of some more destinations, I would love a John Wayne in Santa Ana, Orange County.
I would kill for
That
Yeah.
that flight, if you had a Thursday, Sunday, or a Wednesday, or a Friday, Sunday
Yeah.
return, you would have to book. You'd have to book months in advance, probably.
Because it would be packed.
Because it would be packed.
Well, and it's only, what, 45-minute flight, but it saves you 6-8 hours of driving, with depending on traffic.
yeah,
be
and the
amazing.
Disneyland crowd would be insane.
Yeah. It would be an amazing, amazing flight. I feel like, I don't know if it's a fever dream or something, but I feel like there was one at one point from this airport.
I
The
think it
old
was to
airport.
LA. I think
Was it LA?
but
LAX maybe?
I think it was.
Because I was like, I feel like I remember taking a flight from St. George to California,
Yeah.
Anaheim area one
Yeah.
time. So that would be
But-
sweet. I would.
Yeah.
It's definitely necessary, though. I mean, they had to go through and redo there was a lot of issues with the
Runway.
and stuff that they've all fixed now, and I believe pretty soon they will start to grow the terminal. The other thing out there is the private jet community.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually a lot larger than you would expect.
Yeah.
There are quite a few hangars, and between private jets and private planes, it gets used a lot. And
Yeah.
I think a part of that is there is a connection to northern Utah for sure. There's a connection to Vegas. People that, even like we mentioned with retired people, there's also a lot of executives from whether it's up north or California or Las Vegas that want a place here.
Yeah.
And that's why we're starting to see some more companies bringing satellite offices here and whatnot, or work from home opportunities, because people do want to be here, at least have a place here that they can come down.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen forever in northern Utah, and now because of work from home and because of the business community elevating here, the tech community elevating here,
Yeah.
now it's more like, let's now leave wherever else we're at and go there permanently.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's a big deal, though. The airport is a big deal because it is also still partly an issue because it's not big enough.
Yeah.
It's not. There's not enough flights. So, and that'll
kinda-
come with time.
Yeah, it's that same problem of like, you got to have the people before
You're
it
in
makes
between.
sense.
Yes, it's just that in between, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we're just on the cusp of more growth,
Yeah.
more exponential growth, because
It's going to be crazy to see what it looks like in 20 years.
Yeah.
I saw the University of Utah put out they do like a demographic report, and it says in 2050, like Washington County is supposed to be, I think it was 450,000 people in 2050. So just under 30 years. Right now, Washington County is what, just under 200?
under 200. About
So it's like
190-ish.
more than double in the next 30 years, which is just kind of crazy to think about.
A lot of people.
It's a lot of
Yep,
people.
and that's going to be your Southern Parkway, your you mentioned San Hollow, all the housing that's planned for in and around the lake, Southern Fields of Hurricane, and then out into the eastern side of the county. So,
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm
Pretty
excited
wild.
for it. I'll be here in 30 years.
Yeah.
same.
I'm not going anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
I love my house. I love my place. I love my
Yeah,
town.
I'm not going anywhere. So
Yeah. Well, cool, guys. Well, we'll just wrap it up there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
If you're thinking about making a move here to Southern Utah, reach out to us. We'd love to help you. You can find our information in the description box down below, and we'd love to help you make that relocation. Or even if you already live here in town, obviously you'll see us around, maybe, hopefully. You'll be able to recognize
You'll see
us, and we'd love to chat with you. So just reach out to us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and go check out McCrae's channel as well, and we'll catch you soon.